Okay, hi everybody, welcome. This is another episode of the Tony and Joe Show. There's my good friend Tony Page sitting across from me.
Good day.
How are you, Tony?
I'm very well.
Well,
As we
welcome.
look at the cars going past.
Cars are going by, and this is brought to
closely.
you by the brand new studio. We're sitting on Main Street in Flemington, Jersey Talk Radio. It's a new concept, and if you're listening, you're probably also seeing us, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know.
Well, we're dressed up a little.
I dressed up a little bit, yeah. But today's show is going to be a great show. As you know, we talk about real estate, and then sometimes we talk about other things that are, I think, kind of important to. It relates to real estate, but it's a part of life that we're all going to be facing sometime. As we all get older, we have elder parents, and the fortunate of life or the unfortunate of life is elder parents need care. And who's going to do that when they get to the point where they need some help? Right, Tom? I mean, Tony, right? When we ever get a house and there's mom and dad sitting in there and the son says, we got to sell mom's house. What to do? Well, then we call our good friend who's sitting next to us, Mr. Robert Shannahan, Esquire. Hi, Robert.
How you doing?
Good. Now, Robert is a local a local attorney. He's right on Route 31 with a firm of Shannahan and Voigt. But Bob, you specialize in something unique.
Yes, specialize in elder law.
Elder law. Now,
Yep.
What does that mean?
Well, it's something that evolved in the 1990s out of estate planning. America's getting older, so it raises more questions of problems with parents who may have lost capacity. How do we plan for Medicaid? What happens if we sell that house and mom goes into a nursing home? How does that translate into problems for my Medicaid application?
Right.
Do I drive? How do I get my dad to stop driving? All kinds of things like that come up. And this field grew exponentially since the 1990s to the point where there's a lot of us out there, not quite as many other fields of the law, particularly those who handle Medicaid applications. But there's all kinds of associations to join, and it's a tight-knit group. One I like the most is the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, which I've been a member of for some years. That's a great organization.
The National Academy
Of Elder Law
Academy.
Attorneys.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it's really something. It's
Something generated in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Academy Awards.
Oh boy,
Elder
we don't want to
care.
talk about that.
we
We don't
don't-
want to talk about that.
No,
That's
we
enough
don't.
stuff going on here.
Yeah.
But
Keep it.
let me take you from the beginning, I guess. And you and I have done a lot of work together in this field, and you've brought me to a level of like, I see it now so much more now than ever. But what do children and their siblings do? Or what do a family do when they have a mom and dad, or both, if they're lucky, that are getting up there and now are starting to require some help? What can a family do to prepare, and how do they go on about this? My mother-in-law, to be honest with you, she's 92. But unfortunately, her son, who's 50, lives there. If he wasn't living there, I'd be in that boat too. But what can a family do to prepare? I mean, are there things?
There's a lot to consider, but I think the first point that has to be said is that you have to talk to mom and or dad and find out what they want.
Yeah.
It's their lives. Just because they're getting older doesn't mean they lost the ability to direct what they're going to do and where they're going to live. So we have to find out what they want. And then you're dealing with a generation that's very independent, always has been, and they have maybe different values than the younger folks do, particularly as you get my sons who have very different values than I do.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not very different, but in some areas they don't see eye to eye. You have to make sure that just because mom may need some care, you don't have to say, well, you have to leave where you're living and come live with us. You talk to them. There's other aspects. There's other areas and things you can do. You can have live-in help if that's necessary. You can have people stop by the house once in a while. You can have meals on wheels. There's a lot of things short of that. In fact, they're not really building any more nursing homes. And
Really?
no. And the idea is that it's all going to be given in-home. Now, whether that's a traditional home that we have now or senior living apartments, things of that nature. In fact, there's a whole area of Medicaid where you can stay at home and still be on Medicaid.
I find it hard to believe you just said that.
Is that
Well,
really
don't be-
cost
I mean,
effective?
I mean, yeah.
Apparently,
As
yes.
opposed to, but apparently, is that because it's been guided by the government, or it's more the insurance companies, or just wondering where the initiative is coming from.
Where the initiative is coming from the government. The government doesn't have any money to pay for this. Okay.
So Medicare, Medicaid,
right,
saying, hey, we need to reduce and control our costs more. It's better to have service providers going into these, because part of the discussion, as far as I'm concerned, was where are they going to live and reside?
Yeah.
Because that's a big issue for Joe and I, trying to explain to people, which we can't. We always say we'll talk to an attorney such as yourself, because it changes a bit too. And, the tax situation on any assets after you've actually sold them and pass away, which is a part of this, isn't it, as you position through the different stages and critical milestones of the cradle to the grave.
There are a lot of issues to think about, and every day there are new ones.
Yeah.
And it's just, you have to be very cognizant of what's going on in the family. It's not just like you want to do a will. Well, who do you want to leave this to? You have to sit down and understand who the people are, what their abilities are. I'll have caregivers, a daughter come into my office and sit down and have an almost breakdown in my office because she's been handling mom's care alone at home for years, and she just can't. She physically can't do it anymore.
And the sibling rivalries sometimes come up, because even though they're doing their best, there's others, and I may have been one, from different countries even, or different states, and that go, oh, well, that sister's just doing this, or brother, right?
Right.
And so it's wills and the intent of the actual estate owner.
Well, you're bringing up a very good subject, which is another part of the whole story is wills and trust. Now, the big word today is, every time I go somewhere I hear is trust, trust, trust.
Right.
As you know. But wills, living wills, right? Living wills and just personal effects and all. How important is that?
That's basic. When anyone comes to my office, the first thing I want to know is, do you have your documents?
Yeah.
Now, that's for anybody who comes to my office, whether they're old or not, because not old people aren't the only ones who are dying.
And I'm guilty since divorce. I still haven't changed my will.
Well, listen,
so,
if you haven't, change it. There's 2 G's in Eggert. So for when you need... But
undue influence on
But
paper.
you're 100% right. I've seen the light. I mean, especially when you start having children, you start getting some assets together, a house, cars, various things. What's going to happen with them? And do you want to have a war with the kids? And, everybody said, I had one person, oh, my kids, they get along. They don't need a will. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's when this stuff hits the fan.
Emotions.
Am I right, Bob?
Yeah. Amen.
So if you have a document that's pretty, we'll call it ironclad, that you or your an attorney's put together, it's kind of ironclad. I mean, it defines
draft
what goes where.
A good attorney can draft an ironclad document. Where it goes wrong, though, is the administration of the estate. Who did you pick as executor?
No.
Okay, if you pick, a lot of people come in and they say, well, I want both of my children to be the executor, co-executors. The first rule I have is, and many attorneys, is there's no co-anything.
Right.
You want to get a free ticket to a courtroom, you make co-fiduciaries. Okay, I don't. How do they get? Oh, they get along well. They get along well because you're still alive. You're the glue that's keeping them together. When you're gone, the green-eyed monster shows up, and then you get into fights. And I'll tell you, twice a week minimum in my office, there are kids in my office talking about somebody taking something from mom or dad or doing something wrong with an estate.
So the definition of a will is really basically the will of the person that's writing it as to where each and total assets go upon their, when they leave this world.
Yeah. What do they have and what is their intent with
and
them?
Their intent is. And then they could also put in that will now if there was a very special painting and they want to give that directly to someone outside of the family, that's in the will too.
Yes.
And
jewelry
and
and
with
cars.
potential emotional connections. As
A lot of people
paintings and anything, personal items.
A lot of people will say, well, that goes to my spouse if they survive me. If not, to the kids as they agree. And if they don't agree within 60 days after my death, then as my executor determines. because they say they really don't have anything and they're welcome to have what they want. But there are people who have things. And if it's a lot of things, rather than put them in the will, we'll say, I devise my personal items in accordance with a list or memorandum I prepared and kept with my will. The law allows you to do that.
That's like a separate addenda
Yeah.
to a real estate contract. Yep.
Because then, you're still going to live.
Right.
You're not dying today. And you may lose that stuff. You may give it away anyway. And you may have other things. So it's good to say, okay, instead of changing my whole will, I'll just tear up the memo I wrote and write a new one. The law only says that if you do that, the only requirement is that you date and sign it and keep it with your will.
Well, one of the interesting things I find is kids today, I've seen it firsthand when I was moving out, they don't want what we think they want.
Correct.
That's correct.
And so do you advise that the person writing the will and planning for their estate exit or whatever you call it, dissolution, to check with their children and whoever they're designating to receive them that they really want it?
Well, I only
Or
do
is
that when they start insisting that they're going to leave their house to the kids.
Okay.
Because then I know I've been doing this for 30 years. I have never seen any child want the house.
Yeah.
And
Unless it's at the beach maybe or something special that they could share.
well, even
I
then,
don't know.
even then, so I say, well, look, I know the house is very special to you. It's the family residence. It's where you raised your children. Do you think they want it? They have their own houses now. Or are they just going to sell it?
Yeah.
So instead of, and many times if you're going to be that insistent that the house goes to the children, there are probably some negative effects it's going to have on some aspect of the estate, particularly for taxes. So
Well, how would you do that then? Would you say then liquidate the house, split the profit 50-50?
Right.
So you would write that in the will?
Well, I would just say, you would say these things go out, these specific items, and then the rest of my estate will be liquidated and divided up to
Okay.
so-and-so.
50, okay.
Yeah,
so many-
50-50
how
or
many
whatever
for
you
a
want.
sibling, yeah. Now, the process is you have a document, it's a will, it's been notarized or blessed by the attorney. And then when this day comes, God forbid, now the person passes away, the will has to get what they call probated.
Yes.
Now, you once told me a long time ago that New Jersey is one of the best states.
Shh. Shh. Don't tell the legislature.
That for probate in New Jersey is relatively an easy thing.
It's very easy.
If
First-
it's all been set up correctly, but for some that don't conform,
Right.
I'm assuming it's as crazy.
If you have
as
a
it
will that
is.
you did yourself and it's not
Yeah.
conforming to the statute, then you're going to have to bring it before a judge.
Right.
And that takes a lot of time and costs some money.
But if you have a will, it's properly executed. The first step is to, I guess the word probate or the whole process is saying, is this will real? Is that what a probate really is?
And to be recorded with the authorities.
Okay, so you're now proving that the will is my intents, my intentions as written.
Right.
So now you go down and get it probated.
Mhm.
Now the courts probate it, say, okay, it's good,
No,
ready to go.
Not in New Jersey.
What do you mean?
In New Jersey, it's set
sorry.
up so you bring the death certificate and the original will to the county surrogate. It takes about 20 minutes and costs under $200.
Wow.
As opposed to many other states like New York, Florida, California, where in order to probate a will, you have to actually file a lawsuit and it goes before a judge. In those kind of states, instead of doing wills, we do living trusts. And everybody wants them because a book came out in 1990,
Yes.
Avoid Probate. Well, you don't really need to do that in New Jersey. In fact, it's going to cost you a lot more if you do the trust than if you don't do it in New Jersey.
So let's go back.
Yes.
No, I don't mean to go back, but we have the will probated.
Right.
And now the terms of the will define a executor or executrix.
Mhm.
And now it's their job to disperse and see the actions of the will go forward.
Correct.
Is there a time frame?
No. But any tax filings for the estate have to be done within 9 months of the date of death. So that usually brings everything to a head.
Okay. One of the things you said, the original will, and I'm always thinking, like Joe was saying, the last living will and testament, I think it is typically. So is that what you meant by original? Because you get the latest version, or do you actually have the original and then the final will that they may have? Because over time they may have changed, right?
Yeah, what I meant is the original copy.
Copy.
Okay,
yeah.
of the last will.
Yeah, of the last, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people come to my office and they say, I have a will, and they show me a
Yeah.
copy. I said, do you know where the original is?
Yeah.
Isn't that the original? No, it's not.
Yeah.
You got to probate the original.
Right.
So it's very important. It sounds like it's first step is for anybody, Tony, you too,
Yes.
is to have a will drawn up.
I
Otherwise,
have one. I just haven't updated the beneficiaries.
otherwise,
since being
otherwise,
divorced,
if you pass on with a property without a will, what's that ramification?
Well, that's called the
Just-
administration of the estate. It's done under the laws of New Jersey called the intestacy laws. And that law says who gets what. A lot of people think the state gets it. Well, that's not the case. The statute says who gets it. Now, when you read that statute, and I used to do a education program for the public on this with a bunch of other professionals, and I would stand in front of the hall and read the statute. And then I'd finish it and close the book, and I'd ask if anyone in the audience would ever write the will to say that. Not a single hand would rise. It's so convoluted, it's incredible.
But so in any case, you don't want to go down that road.
No, because then someone has to appear and be appointed the administrator of the estate. They have to post a bond, which is an insurance policy, and it's going to cost $1,000 or $2,000, and it's going to take a long time, as opposed to just having your will done and, I don't have anything. If you have one little bank account with $25 in it, you're going to have a problem. The bank is not going to cooperate with you unless you have a document from the surrogate saying you're the executor or the administrator.
Okay, so the first rule we're hearing today, folks, if you're listening, if you don't have a will, get one.
Right. Get it updated.
Yeah.
Get it if you have one, and was the last time you looked at it,
Yeah.
and get it done. And I would suggest there's a lot. I know online you can do it, but have it done by a professional. This is not a plug for attorneys, but have it done. The cost is not that much, but get it done correctly. I know you go online, probably howtodrawawillup.com and all of that. Yeah. I wouldn't do it.
Call the county surrogate and ask her, Susan Hoffman in Hunterdon County, ask her how many do-it-yourself wills get bounced.
Well, yeah, there's quite a lot.
Yeah.
This is something that you shouldn't fool around with.
No. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask about is New Jersey. Is it still attractive for the majority of people to actually plan to die within New Jersey, as opposed to perhaps going over to Pennsylvania? Because there is some decision criteria to be looked at, isn't there? And of course it may come back, irrespective of the financial benefits or additional costs, you may still want to stay where your children are or where you've grown up.
So you're saying in your final days of life, where you draw your residence?
Well, that's the question, yeah. Yeah. Is it a major consideration from your point of view when you're talking to people about just saying you are aware too, if you pass away in New Jersey, you will be paying this amount of tax on this amount of your assets that are left, or obviously if you've passed
now
away.
Now you're doing the tax ramifications.
Well, yeah.
I just because you're talking inheritance and all, right?
Well, part of estate planning, yeah.
Yeah, that's estate planning.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, and I don't mean to cut you short, Tony,
Yeah.
not at all.
Right.
We could talk about that for a whole nother show.
Yes.
But right now, I wanted to talk stay a little on topic on elder care,
Right.
and why I deviated to the will, because I think that's an important part of elder care planning and your life.
Wasn't that part of estate planning? Because I just thought
That is
it
part.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, we can get into a whole other show on that. Which
That's
I'd be
another
happy
show
to.
on just we Bob and I talk a lot on this subject. But okay, I'll put one on the table here for you. You were going to jump. All right.
No, just
Go ahead, please.
I can speed up a little bit. Someone comes to my office about mom or dad, or mom or dad come in the office and say, "How do I got some concerns. What are they?" First thing I want is, do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney and a living will?
Yep.
I want to get that done right away. There's tax issues that we have to have to address. New Jersey has a state tax on anything over $675,000. So if you have a house, a 401k, and a life insurance plan, you're already there. Yeah. And there are things that we can do in the will to help mitigate those taxes. So we want to do that now, get that out of the way. Then let's talk about what happens, God forbid, someone has to go into a nursing home.
Right.
Ah, that's the big one.
The 5-year look back, is that part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, as a real estate agent, I come across this a lot.
Right.
When we go in there and they would say, we need to sell mom's house. Right, Bob? You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
You and I have spoke about this many. We want to sell mom's house. Okay. Who's is the title in whose name? Well, it's in mom's name. Then what happens, Bob?
Well, then we got to talk to mom.
We got to talk to mom.
Where's mom? If mom's, is this on the up and up? I have plenty of children coming to my office saying, Mom's getting older and we thought we'd put the house in our names.
Why would they do that, Bob?
Well, when they apply for Medicaid, during they go in a nursing home, it's $10,000 a month in New Jersey, and the money's going to go fast. And if mom's the surviving spouse and she goes in a nursing home, it's got to be sold, and all that money's going to be spent on nursing home care and not going to go into the kids' hands. So they want to transfer the house now, then have mom go into the nursing home, and somehow Medicaid's not going to find out about this and say, "Oh, sure, mom, we'll pay for your nursing home care." When you apply for Medicaid, there's a 5-year look-back period. Medicaid is going to ask for every bank statement, every investment account statement, every HUD form from a real estate closing, everything that you've had over the past 5 years, even bank accounts that you closed over the last 5 years. And by the way, if you don't have those, start collecting them, because to go to your national bank and ask for them, you would rather have gum surgery than go through that. Okay. So hold on to them, and with your tax returns. Medicaid's going to look at them, and depending on what county you're in, if you can't explain something on those accounts, they're going to say it's a gift. You deliberately impoverished yourself. Well, Bob, I'm allowed to give $14,000 to as many people I want in a year, and without penalty. That's true for purposes of gift tax, but not for Medicaid. Medicaid doesn't care. If you give $14,000 gifts to each of your children to spend yourself down and then go on Medicaid, you're not going to get Medicaid. There's going to be a penalty period. Same thing with the house. Let's put the house or dollar into our name, the kids' names. Medicaid's not going to allow that.
Even if it's beyond 5 years?
Well, if it's beyond 5 years, they won't see it.
You're right, Tony. It's the magic number is 5
Yeah.
years. If you get there, I guess 5 years in one day,
Right.
and you're saying, okay, Mom, let's change the name, hang in there for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So now, if I may, the house is no longer attached to Mom. It's attached to son or daughter. So now Mom has to go into a nursing home. She knocks on the door. I'm here from my nursing home. They say, okay, how much money you have, right?
Right.
So they look at all her bank accounts, which we'll say are relatively minimal. Do you have a house there? No, I don't own a house. I haven't owned a house in over 5 years. Right?
Right.
But she probably lives in the home still owned by the children, or
Well, that's
however
what
constructed.
they're doing.
Correct?
Now, right
Yeah.
or wrong, now I'm not here to pass judgment on people, but right or wrong, that's what people are doing because their financial advisors are telling them to do this. They hire a financial advisor, and this man and woman are saying, here, Tony, you got to do this.
Right.
No, I'm going to go out there. Here's where I get in trouble. I'm going on the other side. Now, some people are saying, that's great, Tony, because now you shared the benefits of the money, and I got to pay for your mom.
Taxpayers.
Taxpayers are paying for Mom because you said this is your inheritance. Right or wrong, I'm not here to argue that, but that's what people are doing. Now, I was never in that position, so I don't know what side of the fence I'm on, but I just want to tell you to both sides. Am I right, or tell me if I'm wrong?
You're right. That's why they had the 5 years. It used to be 3 years, and they made
Yeah.
it 5 years, the 5-year look back, and now they're talking about making it 10 years.
No, really?
Yeah, it may
not-
not happen, but that's
no.
what they're talking about. Now, that's part of the planning. If you're going to make a gift and nursing home care is not imminent, maybe you want to make a one-time gift. Do them all now, but don't make any more. Get that 5-year clock started.
Right.
You give a gift this year and then give a gift again next year, you reset the clock back to 5 years. You want to get it all done now. Bang, get it
Right.
over with. 5 years plus 1 day, apply for Medicaid. Now, here's another important point that people don't get. You want a private pay when you go into a nursing home. You don't want to be on Medicaid and then go into a nursing home, because then Medicaid says where you go, and it may not be a happy place or nearby. You want to go in private pay. Use your own money so you can choose where you're going. I can't think of a greater hell than having to live someplace I didn't like. Okay? Put them in you could choose where you are. You spend, usually they ask for 2 years of private pay.
A lot of money.
Then you go on Medicaid,
A lot of money.
and they can't kick you out.
Okay. So you're looking at about $10,000 a month, you said?
In New Jersey,
Approximately.
I thought it was about 6 or 7. It's up to 10.
Up to nursing home, you got
I'll-
4 to 6 for assisted living.
I'm thinking of assisted living. I'm sorry. Assisted living is different than nursing. Assisted
Yes.
living means you're able to get around. You don't need 24/7.
So just doing the math, 10 times 24, you're looking at $250,000 you really need to put aside for the private pay.
And that's the house.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Yeah.
say, for the sake of argument, that's the house.
It could be.
Yeah, but if you still own the home as opposed to your children, I think it's a different situation. Or can you do that, where you'd actually pay the 2 years from the, and because you're still alive, clearly, so you could sell your home, do the 240,000, and
Yes.
then apply. Okay, so
Absolutely.
that's another
do
way.
they attach a
yeah.
lien to the house, or what do they do, Bob?
They will not attach Medicaid. There's a rumor out there that Medicaid's going to take the house. The state's going to take the house. No, they're not. They're going to require you to sell the house and then use the money to spend for care at the nursing home. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're a single spouse, all right,
Yeah.
maybe your husband predeceased you, your wife predeceased you, they're going to say, we're going to put you on Medicaid, but sell the house. And when you sell the house, we're going to take you off. Spend that money down, and then we'll put you back on.
Right.
If you have a spouse, though, who's alive and they're staying in the house while you're in the nursing home, that's called a community spouse. They're allowed to stay in the house for as long as they want. They don't have to sell it. But Medicaid will put liens on that house for the amount of money, the care they're spending for the husbands in the nursing home. So when she dies or she goes to sell the house, that lien will have to be paid off.
Right.
Now, Medicaid allows transfers between spouses without penalty. So as soon as one spouse goes in the nursing home, it's recommended that the deed be put into the community spouse's name. All right.
If
Interesting.
the parent lived in the house and it's deemed that they need to go into an assisted living, they go down to the local assisted living, the one that I know that you work very closely with, which is on 31 Independence Manor.
Yep.
And they said, yes, we have a room, and let me $6,000 a month.
Okay.
But I have a house. Well, come back after you sell a house.
No, come on in.
Come on in.
This is what's going to cost a month.
It's going to cost you $6,000, but I don't have the money. But it's in the house. I'm going to sell the house.
Okay.
They will allow you to come in.
It depends. You have to talk to them at the time. It depends whether they have a room available. Do they think you're a good credit risk? I know over Independence Manor, they're known for working with people. It
So
depends on that.
they would say, okay, we understand you own this house free and clear. It's yours. We'll give you a room, but it's kind of like crazy to say you're going to sell it and then pay us. They work that out. All right.
Sometimes, yeah. Like no
Okay.
guarantees. It's up to them.
Wow, it's tough getting old. Tough getting old, boy. It's very expensive.
Well, that seems to be true across the board, and with the aging demographics that
Yeah.
we've got,
Yeah.
and healthcare costs. You know, I was hearing about the farmer. You know, Bernie and some others, Bernie Sanders, are looking to get it drastically reduced, and he was throwing around some pretty big billions, so that they're going to save by forcing these pharma companies to provide better deals to Medicare, what's the other one? Medicaid.
Medicaid, Medicare.
Because they really haven't had
Yeah.
these competitive rounds of bidding, although the farmer came back and said, oh, yes, we have. You know, so.
They have. Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
know, it's a double-edged sword. We're living longer. Medicine's keeping us living longer. And I don't know what to say. As a result of that, we got this senior community that are just moving up and need help.
Yeah, and you know, you want to talk about the government. The government has had its head in the sand for decades on this, and you know, it's fine to say, well, we're going to beat up the pharmaceutical companies, but that's not the issue. The issue is how you're going to provide care for all of these people.
Yeah.
All right. In 20 years, the incidence of dementia is going to double in the United States.
Dementia.
25 years later, it's going to do it again.
I'm feeling better already now. Thanks for talking to you. Good.
Well, you're already halfway there, John.
I'm halfway there.
No, but the thing is, what are you going to do with all those people?
That's
Who's
it.
going? Right now, you have the state takes for people who don't have a family that would be guardian, or have inappropriate members of the family. They have the Office of the Public Guardian. It's a state agency. They have social workers there that have, I don't know, maybe 100 wards to take care of. That's now. What's going to happen? And the state doesn't want to spend any money. Well, what's going to happen 20 years from now when it's doubled? It's going to impact the way we do business. You're not going to. You want to buy a car? I've already had this happen once. You won't be able to tell whether the person signing the contract to buy that car is capable of signing that contract. A woman called me. My husband has dementia. He just bought a car. I said, no, he didn't. Take the contract and the car and the keys down there now, and and show him that you're the guardian, and
Yeah.
Wow.
he is not competent to sign a contract. We're going to see that like crazy. The doctors over at the medical center asked me to come over and show the emergency room doctors what a guardianship paper looks like. So when they come in there and someone says, I'm the guardian, they know for sure, because it's happening to them more and more. The government isn't doing anything to address the real issues. Shock. Don't tell me you're going to beat up the pharmaceutical companies. You've been doing that for decades. That's not the problem. The problem is, how are these people going to get the care they need? We'll leave it there.
Now, I just want to say real quick, if anybody's out there and has a question for Robert, it's your chance to get free legal advice. I know that's hard to believe. Those two words come together, free and legal. He's going to have a stroke. But if you want to call in, which would be the best? Want to use my number? Yours?
Sure.
You can call me on my number, 908-303-0878. And just call in with a question for Bob, and it's free. We won't. He won't bill you. He won't put that little clock he has on his desk on.
I don't have a clock.
Don't you have one of those every time you call?
It's on the computer now. Get with it, man.
Excuse me.
Get with it.
How do people actually get in touch with you?
Well, that's
Why don't we get that now?
I have an office in Flemington across from the medical center on the Raritan Commons. The number is 908-751-1551.
Very good.
There's always people there calling, making appointments.
And the website is Shannahan and Voigt, is it?
The name of the firm is Shannahan and Voigt.
Right.
The website is legalcounselnj.com.
Council.
You guys are busy every time I go there. Man, you guys are busy because this is a very
It's a growing industry,
yeah.
you know, particularly with the old bell curve getting pushed out.
Absolutely,
because
Tony, you're right.
We say this often because from our perspective, you know, the new listing I have, it's unfortunately someone that's leaving to go to Pennsylvania.
That's
and
common,
you know, and they're retiring, and they've got a place in South Carolina as well, but they're not staying here. It kills me because the people we're losing are the ones we need to stay, and they'd love to stay, but when you're paying $25,000 plus in taxes and all the other bogeys that go along with it, depending what your income source was and all those sort of things, it's hard to justify people staying. And I look at the business backdrop. It kills me when I see these New York ads. You know, I get on my little soapbox. New York, I know it's the nano capital of the world in Albany, right, isn't it? You know, and they've got these mantras, and you'd say it enough time, people will believe it. What have we got in Jersey? You know, at the
stay
moment.
Focused. Don't get on that little soapbox.
Well,
Tony,
but this is what it comes back to.
I
is
agree.
what you're saying.
But
you know, the legislature and others starting to get out of the old locks and things and free it up and say, this is what we need to do.
They're clueless in Trenton. They don't care. They know people are leaving in droves.
Yeah.
They're absolutely contemptuous of the situation.
Now-
They don't care.
Well, I'm going to bring up another thing that Robert does, which I know. Bob, you used to be the president, I think, of Volunteer Guardianship One-on-One.
Yes. Now I'm just their attorney.
Now, that's another part of getting up there in age, is a guardianship. Now, explain, what is a guardianship, Bob?
Okay. A guardianship. Everyone has the right to make their own decisions unless a court of law says you don't. So until that happens, you can make any decision you want, even if you are incapacitated, non-compos mentis, however you want to say. If someone is having problems and obviously can't make their own decisions, take care of themselves, they're found wandering around from dementia or Alzheimer's, then someone in the family, someone with standing, the ability to take it to the court, has to get two doctors to personally examine the person. The doctors have to fill out an affidavit which has to say certain things in it under the statute, basically saying the person is incapacitated and needs a guardian, and what the diagnosis is. Give those to a lawyer. Within 30 days of the examination, a lawyer has to file what's called a complaint with the probate court, and it's a request for an order to show cause. The judge gets that. They'll look at the paperwork. If it conforms with the statute, the judge will sign the order to show cause. It's a court order that says, I have these papers about guardianship for this person. So-and-so wants to be the guardian. If you object, you must get your papers to me by this date, and we're going to have a hearing 2 months from now on this date. Show up then. Send papers in. Those all go out. The judge will also appoint an attorney for the alleged incapacitated person. That attorney's job is to go out there and assure the court that everything's on the up and up. There isn't any funny business going on here. That lawyer will talk to the alleged incapacitated person, talk to the proposed guardian, talk to other family members, talk to the doctors, and then write a report to the court. Is this on the up and up or not? Do they really need a guardian? Many times, the overwhelming majority of times, yes, they need a guardian. And then we'll go to the court, and the judge will put the guardianship through on the record. Mm-hmm. If it's contested, then there'll be a hearing.
But you just laid a lot of legal jumbo there on this.
What?
But,
don't you watch TV?
Too much TV. Yeah. That's a lot of. But break it down for me.
What do you want? What do you want to know?
Your organization or the organization that you're with.
Oh, volunteer guardianship.
Volunteer guardianship, one-on-one.
Right.
Is a nonprofit.
Yes.
How many volunteers do you have?
Right now, it's about 25.
25 volunteers that are trained.
Yes.
They take a class and they're trained to be a guardian. Now, once they do, they get a. I don't use a person. What is it? Award.
Award. Yeah.
Award. They get an award, and they'll say, "Okay, you are now attached to Joe Eggert because he's home and he needs help." So they come in. Now, they don't feed Joe or me or anything. They're responsible for financial decisions.
Well, you can split the guardianship up between the guardian of the person, which would be what kind of housing and care do they get, and guardianship of the property, which is their finances. Most people are both. Most guardians are both. If someone's incapacitated, they're not going to be able to live at home, so you're talking about appropriate care. Is it a nursing home? Is it assisted living?
But these volunteers really become very close to these words,
yeah,
some of them.
What the idea behind volunteer guardianship is that we have a number of people who are in nursing homes or other places who have no family members who can act on their behalf. So we find people in the community who are willing to act as volunteer guardians, and we train them and they become the guardian of these people. Traditionally, without that, it would go to the Office of the Public Guardian in Trenton. They're very overwhelmed, overworked. We like volunteer guardianship one-on-one because it's one person who's attached to one ward.
All right.
And they get the job done.
It's an amazing organization. I've touched base with them a little while, some time. And these are amazing people that do this strictly on a volunteer basis. They don't get paid. And nobody gets paid. I think you have a director, but it's very important. Their work is phenomenal. And not too many people know what you guys do. And my hat goes off to you guys. Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's also fraught with quite a lot of technical details you have to do too, because a friend of mine, he's actually a guardian, and he's having to put his own money up to go to court to actually prove that he's doing the right thing. It's a complicated situation. He's a financial advisor as well.
In New Jersey?
New Jersey, yeah.
I'd be curious to talk to you about that off air.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's happening. But
That sounds very. I don't know it either about.
Well,
that.
coming back to siblings, looking for different outcomes, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes these siblings will come at the power of attorney or the guardian and
right.
accuse them of all kinds of things because, after all, they're spending my inheritance.
Right.
Well, mom's still alive. I'm sorry. Go get a job.
Exactly.
So, we touched on a lot of stuff. What kind of advice would you give someone right now? I think I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. But what would you say if somebody came into you, a husband and wife, and said, my mom, one of the two, said, my mom's getting 90 years old. She lives alone. What should I do? I mean, you start off with the wills.
I'd like to know what mom's assets are. I have a questionnaire. I don't want to know the investment houses or the account numbers. I just want to know, does she have a 401k? How much is it?
But when you ask that question, you think people get a little like, well, what do you care how much money she's got, dear Mr. Attorney?
Very few people do.
Really? Good. Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
And I really need that information, and there's attorney-client privilege, so I can't blab it all over the place. But
right.
I just want to know, because that's going to tell me how much time we have.
Yeah.
What the nature of the asset is. Some things you can liquidate, and others you don't want to because there are severe tax issues.
Okay, so you do a questionnaire with the husband and wife, or one of them whose mom or dad is in question.
Right.
So you talk about, do you have a will? Okay.
Is there a power of attorney?
Power of attorney, very important. And there's many kinds of power of attorneys.
Yes.
In this case, is there one that just, does that have a special name in this case where you're overseeing all?
It'll be a durable power of attorney.
Durable power of attorney.
For financial affairs.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's important. I have, my wife and I, Adele, we went with Robert and had power of attorneys done because something happens. Somebody has to make decisions for each other. So we did all that. We did the wills, and also I'm kind of bully on that, as they say. So you do the questionnaire. First question is wills. You have a will. You want an idea of the assets.
Right.
And then.
And what's going on health-wise with mom or dad? Well, what's the situation? Is nursing home in the future? It may not be. If it is, when? Is it 5 years from now? Is it tomorrow? That'll tell me what I have to do.
There's other alternatives too, like Comfort Keepers. I'm not a plug in them, but there's organizations out there that bring people in, and they will actually stay there 24/7.
Yeah. Well, that's what Bob was saying before, right?
That's
starting to sway there. So
I,
in-home care.
Met a client by this process where I had to sell the house because mom had a lovely lady there. Oh my God, she was like family, and I always would come in there. But she stayed there 24/7. The lady in question was like almost 100. Rose, sweet
I remember
lady.
Rose. God
Remember
bless
Rose?
her. Yeah.
Sweet lady, and her caregiver was a sweet lady. She was actually from Nigeria, I think. But sweet lady. Every time I go there to show the house, the smell of food in there.
Yeah.
But that was work. But that's not cheap either.
No, but it's cheaper than the nursing home.
Well, it's quality of care too.
Well,
I think it comes back
Rose,
matching up.
Right.
You know, what is the real ailment here? And it's like Gary and Lynn from. I didn't realise you worked so closely with them. I'd helped them move over to Upper Makefield. They used to have a beautiful old home which I sold for them in New Jersey. Again, we lost someone else over there. But their facility, I think the basement is the high dementia, isn't it? And then they have another. Or one, that's more
ward.
secure. Yeah.
They don't want people walking out.
Yeah, and it's beautiful over there by BJ's, and
Now the other great option, again these are not for everyone, is the old famous mother-daughter house.
Yep.
That is a phenomenal. We've seen a couple out there now where people have made major additions to their house, sold mom's house probably, and made an addition where she has, or he, or her mom, has their own private apartment. Now that's, to me, it's the best world.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to do that.
well, there's
not
also
everybody
the
wants to
other
do that.
one
What's the other one?
where you can actually put in a temporary building. That I'm not
Echo.
sure with Echo. Exactly. I
That's
forgot what it's
never
called.
caught on.
Well, it hasn't. But has
it's
anyone
'cause
set up a program for it?
It raises a lot of zoning issues. That's
There's-
why.
yeah.
Now, if you have a big piece of property, you probably get away with it.
There's very few areas around here that allow
Yeah.
Echo.
And just to be clear, it's a temporary building
Right.
for the life of that person, and
Right.
then it needs to be removed. And
Yep.
it's not as though you can sell it with the two buildings.
That was a good idea, but I
Yeah.
think I'm sure you're right. The zoning got involved and got nasty, and the idea was great. But I love the idea of a mother-daughter or apartment for mom and dad. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
do you
we've
see
seen
many of the builders actually starting to think like this? Because,
No.
again, in New Jersey, we
No.
seem to not be recognizing it at private
Well,
levels either.
It's not just
You
New
know?
Jersey. It's
It's elsewhere. Well,
You're right, Tony.
Yeah,
You know, I don't see one brand new development going in that says,
with first
by the
floor
yeah.
masters more
Well,
so,
they're-
and the
They're
en-suites.
doing
and,
the first floor masters more, but they're not allowing the separate living quarters for a parent or parents,
right.
and that's really, bring back the ranch for elder people,
Single level living,
and let's
yeah.
do attached homes.
Yeah.
I think that would be a big help, as you're saying.
Well, let's ask questions because we are real estate here too. What are some of the gotchas that you think are avoidable from a real estate perspective that either realtors can help overcome or prepare clients for? Because so often we feel the bottom rung, everything falls down, and we're trying to pick things up. And Joe and I laugh about it. It's like, well, that would have been good 5 years ago, but we can't do that now
Right.
for the disgruntled siblings that may be trying to sell. And I've worked with as many as 13 siblings before, and there were 2 factions, maybe 3,
Right.
and it's near impossible when it's at that stage.
No, yeah, it is.
But are there any specific blocking and tackling things that realtors should be more aware of, or clients should be, in terms of even selecting who's going to be marketing their home and maybe getting a start on it a little ahead of time? Cause
You have to be aware of who has the authority to act. Okay,
yeah.
The default is always the person who owns the house.
Okay.
So if it's mom or dad, you have to talk to them. You have to, they have a right. They have rights.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they, like we talk about Rosie. Rosie was one of my clients too, and
Yeah.
she was pushing 100 at the time, and
Yeah.
she had to live in person. And she called me up one day and said, "My niece wants to put me in a nursing home. I don't want to go. Do I have to go?" I said, "No. Let me come over to the house." So I went to the house.
Yeah.
I looked at what she had in the bank. I said, "You could stay here as long as you want, as long as
Right.
you're getting your care met, and you're okay." It's her decision,
Mm-hmm.
and she stayed
Who
there.
was the niece in the relate? Was she a power of attorney or
No.
No, she was
No.
just
Just a niece.
yeah.
So we nipped that in the bud because, for a lot of reasons. But and she lived, and she's still alive. She's over 103 now.
Wow.
All right.
Enjoying life.
Amazing person. She was born in that house and wanted to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always they're the ones in the driver's seat. Now, if there's someone with power of attorney, that's the person in the driver's seat. Okay. One child, the daughter has the power of attorney, and the son doesn't. Don't care what the son says.
Right.
Don't even involve yourself in that. My job is to list this house and sell it. And
Right.
I'm going to follow directions from them. If you got problems, you take it up with them.
Well, believe it or not, the rose I was thinking of, I had the 2 roses. I know the rose. Yes, I remember that rose. But the other one with the lady from Nigeria, she lived. It was a different story. Same kind of story. She was almost 100 years old, and she had a full-time carekeeper, and that was the lady. But that's a great thing to do.
They have a guardian. The guardian's in charge. But remember with a guardianship, the guardian cannot sell real estate unless they brought a separate application to the court and the court approves it.
Mm-hmm.
The realtor should be involved in that by providing a statement, what they're going to list it for and what their commission is. And that should go in the application. And the judge has to say yes. And they're pretty good about doing this quickly.
Right.
I have one right now, 2 of them right now before the court. And I'm sure it's going to go through, but the guardian cannot sell. You can't even list the house until the court says yes.
Right. Well, that was my point. Was in many respects you can have precursory conversations around things. However, until that person has really passed away, it's very difficult to set anything up in stone, as it were, as far as, because people can change their minds. Maybe they'll want something else, the surviving siblings. Maybe someone will want to own that home, and then they need to work things out. Would you agree with that? That it really doesn't serve people's interests to start too soon because it can waver.
Yeah. Again, it
change.
depends on what the needs are. Depends on what they want to accomplish.
Yeah.
But one thing they don't want to do is give the kids the house for $1, because then the kids get mom's tax basis. Mom bought the house in 1963 for $10,000.
Oh, here we go with this one. Yeah, go ahead.
And if mom gives them the house for $1, the tax basis is $10,000. So when they sell the house 10 years from now for $410,000, they pay capital gains on $400,000.
Right.
The kids never want to take gifts of real estate from parents.
That's good to know.
These are little things that you really need to know, because too many people hear these cocktail party stories about, oh yeah, give the kid a house for $1 or something and all that. They don't. There's things out there that you really need to know, and you need to hire a professional.
You don't know what you don't know. It's like anything else.
Yeah, it's very good. I heard that before.
Yeah.
I don't fix my own car because I don't know. So
You
I hire.
hear that, Joe?
What do you mean by that?
I don't do that.
He's just sold his car.
My Carmigui is on its way
yes.
down to Florida.
I saw that on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the way gone. My Weston Healy's gone. I'm looking for a toy. Anybody out there's got a toy you want to get rid of, call me.
Spelled C-A-R.
I know where there's a red Plymouth hot rod in a garage somewhere.
Well, that's
there it is. The hand went up.
where I was going. A lot of these estates have a lot of collectibles, shall we say, some of which may be described as hoarding, and they just couldn't get rid of anything. So typically as one of the first steps, we go in and we're looking at staging the place as best you can.
Yes.
Well, you've got to be able to see the windows in some places, and without exaggerating,
You're right.
it's personal property, some of which has a lot of emotional interest and collection. And like I say, dealing with multiple siblings, they each are coming at it from different angles, and the old "what's in it for me?"
Right.
So there again, you really can't start that process with estate sales companies until you've got some form of agreement from at least the power of attorney.
Well, someone has the legal authority to make decisions, whether it's a power of attorney, a guardian, or an executor.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that make the decisions.
Without those,
no one's allowed to make decisions, except the owner, who may be dead or incapacitated.
Okay, yes, you're right.
So I wouldn't get involved in the siblings. Your mantra should be, I'm dealing with the person in authority. If
But
you have a problem,
generally, as an agent, Tony and I get called in from a sibling. Hi, Joe. Tony, can you come over? I want to talk to you about selling Mom's house. That's how the conversation starts.
all right.
And we sit down, and so we're dealing with a person that's he puts out a complete story. Mom is 89 years old. We need to make decisions about sale of her house. Mm-hmm. My first question is now, who owns the house? I mean, I realize that. I mean, you can't sell a house that you don't own. I understand that, legality. But he's the guy, or she's the person that's kind of driving the cart generally. Even though you go talk to Mom, she's going, oh, yeah, Billy is, and we're caught sometimes between a rock and a hard place. It's difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
And
these are issues that we as a country are going to have to start answering, because they're going to be more and more. Remember what I said about you're not going to know whether the person signing the contract has the capacity to do so.
Yeah.
Well, I think you need to simplify even the bank structures, because quite a few people have old bank accounts, and what you've really said is, look, for God's sakes, get it down to one of each category, because diversification isn't helping it, and at least then you can track your records.
Right.
Because record management is a pain in the neck. It's tax time again, and I haven't started yet, but we will.
All right, we're coming down to about 6 minutes left on the show. I mean, Bob and I and Tony, we talk about this constantly, and it's still never...
Well, we want to try to help people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you haven't helped yourself, though, before a major lifestyle event, or whatever it's called, life cycle event, it's probably going to be too late. And so we're always saying, talk to the specialists, in this case, Bob Shannahan.
Be proactive. Don't sit back and wait for the old boom to come down on you. Don't wait for this. Be proactive, because nobody lives forever.
And you can rest then too, because you are actually having your intentions put into place. Otherwise, it's maybe it will, maybe it won't.
And a will can be as simple as if it's a husband and wife and 2 children. Let's be honest. We'll make a classic family. Okay, generally a will say, of the husband and wife, whoever leaves first, usually everything goes over to the other half.
Right.
Now, upon that person's leaving this world, then that becomes who gets what. But, I mean, to me, that's kind of a basic will, that everything goes to my wife and vice versa, I think. Is that what we wrote?
Everything goes to my spouse and then to my kids equally. It's that's the basic will. But that's only a little part of the will, and that's probably, it's important, but it's not the most important part.
What's the most important part of the will?
Who is going to be your executor?
Yeah. We were going through...
And who's going to be the alternate?
We have a common friend that's an executor that's been 2 years...
Yes.
Yes, and that's... can be not an easy job.
Stop the automatic, it's going to be my kids, all right? In this day and age, more, and I've been talking to attorneys about this. There's one in Michigan even has everybody come in and he has them sign a non-aggression pact. I see too many of these family fights. Pick someone outside the family if you can.
To be the executor.
To be the executor. And if you have a trustee, a will in your trust, instead of your kids being the trustee, have an institutional trustee.
As a executor or executrix, there's a financial reward for doing a lot of work. And what is that, basically?
Commission.
There's a commission of what, 10%?
No, it's
5%?
5.5% for the first $200,000, 4.5% to the million.
So it's,
then
all right. So
3.
it's a lot of work, because I know someone very close to me is going through it, and this person is like
Well,
and
he's-
you can turn
he's causing
down.
it. Yeah.
Yes, but you can say, I don't want to be an executor.
Correct. Yep. That's why we always put an alternate in the will.
Oh.
Okay.
Now there's something, an alternate. So if I say, Tony, you're my executor, and
And I
Bruce,
turn it down.
you're the alternate.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that how it works? So,
And if Tony can't do it, then it's Bruce. And you can go
Right.
on and on if you want.
so,
but
Yeah.
so Tony can say, you know what? I don't want to do this.
he can.
Yeah.
Should you,
You can't
tell the
compel.
person that he's your executor?
Yeah. Sure.
Tony, by the way, I put you as there.
Do you have a problem with that?
You got a problem?
Yeah.
So, but at the time he doesn't. But the time it happens,
There
he
may
might.
be a big life issue
Yeah.
going on. You may not be able to do it.
That's a great survivability type clause. That sounds very smart.
Okay, so I
Right?
didn't know
An
that.
alternate,
You can
yeah.
have an executor and then a
Alternate.
alternate.
Then the other thing is, if younger folks have minor children, you've got to put a guardian who's, God forbid something happens to both of you, who's going to take the kids, not the state. You don't want that.
Right.
Name people and name an alternate.
What age would that be?
What age will what be?
You're saying if you have a minor. I mean, what do you consider? The
18.
law, 18.
Yep.
Emancipation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, 18. And you don't want to leave money outright to children in your will who are under
Now
the
here's
age
one.
of 30.
Here's one. While we're talking,
Yeah.
we're almost down to the wire. You can refuse an inheritance too. By the way.
Oh,
can't you?
yes. Yep. Yes, you can.
What case would you typically?
I give you, Tony, upon my passing, my old house that's falling down. It's got more crap attached to it.
with underground storage tanks.
Underground
something.
oil tanks in
Yeah.
it, and chickens running all over it. I
Right.
want to give this to you.
Yeah.
Chickens are great.
I'm sorry, you're the chicken farmer.
Yeah.
But right, so Tony can go, whoo, I picked this up and you just gave me a
Right.
load of crap. Am I
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So now Tony can say no to that.
Correct.
Then what happens?
Well, it goes back into the estate, and then it can be sold or someone can buy it, but it gets distributed among the others.
But somebody at one time can do that. You know that. I didn't
Right.
realize you can refuse an inheritance.
Well, particularly if it's going to be a negative value to you, I can understand why, right? And an underground storage tank would be
No,
exactly
that's
the
biting
reason.
us, and we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about that in a future show.
Yeah.
And while we're on it, we got 2 minutes left. We want to talk about what's coming up. We got a couple upcoming shows that I'm really excited about.
Well, we do. I'm waiting to get feedback, though.
We
so
are
rather
going to
than
have
talk
the
about
mayor of Clinton Township. We're down to 1 minute. Mayor of Clinton Township's coming on to talk about some great new ideas about transferring of a house in Clinton Township is going to be easier. Don't pass out, Bob. It's
Oh,
it's
you're
getting
crazy.
easier.
I
So
live in
John-
Clinton Township, man. That's great
John
news.
is coming on. We're going to talk about underground oil tanks and scans.
with Scott Leifer from Hawkeye.
Yeah, Scott's coming on.
Right.
So we got some really good shows coming up because we always talk about underground oil tanks. Oh, run, or get them fixed.
Well, poor Richard. I think
Richard's got that.
one
So
he's
we got a
looking
minute
to.
left. So I want to thank you, Robert. You're a good
My
friend,
pleasure.
and thank you for coming out and
Anytime.
sharing your knowledge.
Anytime.
Tony, my friend.
Always educational, Bob.
And
I
over
appreciate
there,
it.
the guy
Thank
that you hardly see over there, but that's been flipping all this good stuff around, Mr. Bruce Pearson. Thank you, Bruce, for having. I did an excellent job.
My
on this.
pleasure.
And I never saw this before with that yellow screen. We got to talk about putting up a little other one there too.
We do. Yeah,
But
that's right.
it's 6:00, and this is Joe Eggert, and
Tony Page signing off.
so
Thanks for
thank you
listening.
all, and take care, Robert. Thank you, and Bruce.
Take care.
Okay.